March next year signals a historic moment for Grenadians as we attempt for the first time to change our constitution. The country is expected to cast ballots on a number of issues which have been the subject of widespread public consultation within the last year. If a two-thirds majority of persons who cast ballots say yes on the items being considered, then amendments to the Constitution will be made. Plans are underway to present the constitutional changes that Grenadians will have a chance to vote on next March. Some of the main topics on the table include the adoption of the Caribbean Court of Justice as our final appellate court, and the official country name change from State of Grenada to Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Although Grenada has considered constitution reform in the past, this is the first time that the country has seriously attempted change since its independence 40 years ago. Head of the Constitutional Review Commission, former Attorney General Dr. Francis Alexis, just a few weeks ago was optimistic that this attempt at constitutional reform will be successful.
We have had no walkouts, no cuss-outs, anything of that kind. And all the recommendations have enjoyed good majority support from the committee. We therefore believe that the ruling party and the main opposition party, respectively the NNP and the NDC, staying the course.
Not too long after Dr. Alexis's optimistic predictions for the constitutional reform process, opposition leader for the NDC, Nazim Burke, released a statement that announced his party's withdrawal of support for the referendum vote.
The National Democratic Congress will neither support the proposed constitutional reforms in its present construct, nor the holding of a national referendum for that purpose.
Burke claims that the recommendation should have included other areas, such as a term limit provision, proportional representation in Parliament, and a fixed date for general elections.
Having carefully reviewed and considered the contents of the committee's report and its recommendations, we of the NDC feel constrained to state, without equivocation, that in our view, the proposed amendments to the Constitution leave unattended some of the most important and substantive issues that must be addressed in any constitutional reform.
There are those, however, who believe that Burke's claims are not genuine. Grenadian trade unionist Chester Humphrey said that Burke claimed to oppose the referendum months before any recommendations were made.
Long before the Constitutional Commission or committee headed by the most celebrated Queen's Counsel, Dr. Alexis, submitted its recommendations, Mr. Burke had already decided that he would vote no. So to come to pretend that his no vote is based on the principle of all or nothing is, as I said, manifestly dishonest.
When we had the voting, the NDC representative, former Prime Minister Tillman Thomas, was very much here, very much participating.
Well, we have always supported constitutional reform, NDC. I mean, NDC is a political party. From time to time, parties, may take different positions, but we have always supported constitutional reform. But I believe the party expected us to go forward with things like proportional representation, fixed date for election.
Although there were 21 initial recommendations for constitution change, Dr. Alexis said there is a reason the committee decided to move with the areas of broad consensus.
Constitution reform, by its nature, has to be an ongoing thing, an ongoing process. They changed the constitution completely in Guyana in 1980, and almost every year since then, they have been having numbers of amendments. Trinidad and Tobago changed its constitution in 1976. Right now, as we speak, they are discussing constitution reform. You're not going to fix everything in one referendum. You take some up front, and you take others later on.
This gradual reform process does not sit well with everyone, however.
I don't agree with the view that is work in progress and you start now and you continue. I think you want to do a constitutional review every 5 years or every 3 years in an election cycle. I think you want to take some time, re-examine the relevance of the Constitution, see some of the changes that you could make that will last for a pretty long time, and you don't want to do this exercise too regular.
Of course, this is a democratic process, and no person or no sector is going to get all that it wants.
Even former Prime Minister Tillman Thomas, before the announcement of opposition towards the referendum from his colleague and NDC party leader Nazim Burke, seemed to be in favor of the gradual reform process.
Politics is something that people look at the situation and see what mileage could be made from a situation. One doesn't know, so I cannot speak for the party on that matter, but I could say I believe an incremental change in the Constitution, I think, is something that we all should go along with.
If you are going after something, and I speak on my practice as a trade unionist for close to 40 years, and you don't get everything that you want, won't you take some of what you want? I mean, that's logical.
So we're not going to solve all the problems at one go, but we make a good start, a very good start, and we are confident that this is a very good start. And once you introduce the concept of constitution reform and the people accept it, next round around, then you can go further into constitution reform.
This is the Grenadian reality. This is our current state of affairs.